Chapter 4. May I take off your dress, Jezebel? I would like to see all of you. He stood behind me in the dark, his breath a sensual whisper against my neck. Yes. The heat of his hands on my back sent shivers of desire coursing through me. He slipped off my dress, letting the fabric slide down my body and onto the floor. Lie down. His tone was tender but firm. Aroused by his gentle yet commanding control, I found myself yielding to his request. I could feel his eyes on me as I lay back on his bed, the sheets a cool satin against my skin. The familiar insecurity that gripped me whenever I presented my body to a man was strangely nowhere to be found. The scars I hid, the extra flesh I so cunningly concealed, my anxious need to adhere to the expectations of beauty, they all seemed to vanish as I lay there, naked before him, like an offering. The heat of his eyes moved over the abundant curves of my body like a silent, hungry caress as he drew closer. Kneeling on the floor beside the bed, my pulse quickened as his hands slid up my legs. His fingers stopped momentarily before slowly tracing the length of the scars which trailed along my thighs. I drew in a shaky breath, overwhelmed by the searing desire this man elicited from me. He continued his leisurely exploration of my body, teasing me with a light brush over the folds of my sex, already tender and wet, before moving up to my breasts. My nipples ached with sensation as he ran his thumb against them in slow, circular strokes. I grasped at his arms, trying to pull myself closer, shocked at how the simplest touch from him could provoke such a strong response. How could this feel so good? His hands were like ecstasy, sending ripples of pleasure through me. Oh my God, what are you doing to me? I gasped, my words spilling out into the darkness, breathless and alive, as August slid his finger gradually down the soft curve of my belly and found the heat of my center. Overwhelmed by sensation, a sharp gasp escaped me as I arched against his hand, desperately trying to draw his fingers in deeper, but his touch remained tantalizingly slow. My body trembled with a powerful need for release, and I could feel myself slipping over the precipice of an orgasm when he abruptly stopped. No, no, don't stop, I begged him. Please. Whimpering against the sheets, I clutched them in my fists. This was a torture of a kind I had never felt before. Every part of my body hungered for his touch. He moved across the bed with a silent grace and gathered me into his arms. His fingers grazed over my lips, the faint taste of my desire lingering on them as his eyes met mine. I reached out and guided his mouth closer to me. There was a moment of hesitation from him, a flicker in his gaze before his lips touched mine. I grasped at the fabric of his shirt while his hands slipped into my hair. His lips were soft, his tongue dancing delicately with mine in a slow, sensual waltz. My center throbbed impatiently with longing as his breath fell across my skin, his kiss leaving a long, aching trail down to my neck. His name rushed out of me in a tangled moan when all of a sudden, a prick, like the tip of a blade, pressed against my skin. It took all my strength to pull away from him, confused by the unexpected sensation. Reeling and woozy from his touch, I tried to gather myself, wondering if I had stumbled into some sort of bizarre role play. What the hell was that? My question pierced the stillness in the room as I looked up at him with widened eyes. My heart hammered out a heavy rhythm against my chest as I grappled with the jagged blow of disbelief. His teeth were now faintly visible, protruding below the succulent curve of his lips, and my breath tangled in my throat. Who was this man? The loudest part of me, the one that held all my fears, instinctively recoiled in horror, while a tiny voice inside me, the one that diligently tended to the garden of logic in my mind, wondered if this was all some strangely lucid, erotic dream. August pulled back and ran his tongue lightly along the points of his teeth. and like the sweep of a magician's curtain, they vanished. The blue of his eyes simmered as he regarded me with a steady look of inquiry. Do I frighten you, Jezebel? I don't know. Should I be frightened? I began to shiver, sliding myself further against the headboard in an attempt to put more distance between us, as the boundaries of my logical mind struggled to make sense of what was going on. No, I would never hurt you. I want you to understand that. And I do apologize for startling you. August moved to wrap his sheet around my body, his eyes sober again. Confusion swam in murky puddles, but at the same time, I felt no danger from him. His gaze spoke of sincerity, and the energy that radiated off him was soft and full of a gentleness. Is this really happening right now? Were you really just about to? He shook his head, stilling my words before I could finish. No, Jezebel, what you felt was only a polite invitation. I would never embrace you without your permission. Embrace me? Yes, an embrace is an intimate, consensual act between two people. My throat felt dry as I struggled to understand what he was saying to me. And what exactly does this embrace involve? Well, technically, I would be drinking your blood. August's fingertips grazed my arm as he spoke, eliciting a current of electricity that cascaded through me. But there is much more to it than that. Within your blood lies an essence that you would be sharing with me. It is sacred and immensely powerful. I stared at him. Are you for real right now? He nodded. Yes, I can assure you, I am very real. Despite my shock, a deep fascination bloomed, awakening within me the fragments of myself that longed to explore the depths, to connect with a yearning more carnal in nature, which had been hidden and bound by society, screaming to be let out. This part of me stepped forward, telling me that this was real, that this was actually happening, and that all the other aspects of myself had no place here in this room with this terrifyingly alluring man. My words came out tentative, caught between the pull of curiosity and the push of apprehension. Does it hurt? August smiled. No, my embrace would only bring you extreme pleasure. And then what happens after? My pulse had slowed its frantic pace, fading to a softer hum as my hands released their grip on the sheets. His voice was soothing and stilled the decline of my unease. He reached out to brush a strand of hair away from my face, his fingers lingering on my cheek as he spoke. You may feel a bit lightheaded at first, and you would long for sleep, though what I would take from you is no more than what one would give at a blood bank. Your body will easily replenish it. I found myself strangely titillated by his seductive proposal, but beneath the lust that he had served to the surface lay a myriad of conflicting feelings. This confusion held me captive in a state of strange emotional suspension. How was this even possible? The blue of August's eyes pierced into me. There is so much to this reality that you can only begin to grasp, Jezebel. I ran my fingers through my hair, trying to grasp my tangled thoughts. I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say here. What are you, some kind of vampire? I couldn't help the mocking tone in my voice, and he shook his head, an amused smile playing across his face. Oh, the vampire. Such an entertaining fairy tale, embellished over centuries, rooted in fear and false propaganda. No, I am not a vampire. At least not in the way you think a vampire to be. What I am is a descendant of an ancient bloodline. I call myself desanguine, which roughly translates to of sacred blood. My head spun with a feeling of surrealism that was hard to compartmentalize. The world I'd carefully molded around myself had collapsed, spinning me recklessly toward a reality unknown to me. Trepidation clung to me like a shield, while the faint rush of excitement bubbled within. It was as if I had stumbled upon a treasure, a beautiful, elusive truth, hidden from me until now, and it beckoned to me, enhanced by the deep pull of my fascination. So all the stories? That is all they are, just stories. Though I do prefer the night, as it is much more peaceful. But you need blood to survive. To thrive and stay healthy, yes, though only about once a week or so. And why is that? I was held captive by intrigue, and these unguarded questions spilled from my mouth with an urgency. August ran his fingers lazily down my arm. I am the ancient manifestation of a primal life force, a life force that everyone encompasses within them, best accessed through tantric energy. It is the sharing of this life force that sustains me. His words hung in the air like a sensual promise to finish what he started, but the enticing magnetism that had drawn me to him like a seductive cloak suddenly fell away, leaving a sharp clarity behind. Wait a minute. I stared at him as a flicker of distrust slipped in, demanding answers. So all of this was just a lure? Did you hypnotize me or something? August shook his head slowly, as a hint of something akin to sadness flashed briefly in his eyes. No, like I said before, this was only an invitation. I would never manipulate your mind. You have free will here, and you can leave if you want. The warmth of his hand fell in mine for a moment. I know these are only words to you right now, Jezebel, but I want you to know that you are safe with me. What I'm offering you is an experience of pleasure in exchange for energy. A silence settled around us as I absorbed the reality of who this man was and what he was proposing. It was bizarre and unexpected, and there was no neat compartment in my mind for any of it. But at the same time, something about all this felt mystical and profound, and the depths of possibility beckoned to me. I was filled with an irrepressible yearning to explore this world that he was inviting me into. Okay, I found myself whispering into the darkness of the room. August looked at me with a heavy gravity. Is that a yes, Jezebel? I nodded as a rush of breathlessness overcame me. Are you absolutely sure? Yes. In the darkness of the room, he moved closer to me, lying me back down on the sheets as his hands gently caressed my face. His lips touched mine as his fingers coiled themselves in my hair. The overpowering and seductive pull of him rekindled the embers of my desire, and my pulse beat in a rapid flutter, whether from excitement or fearful anticipation. I could not tell. If you want me to stop at any time, just say so. His voice drifted above me while his mouth moved to my neck, his lips softly brushing against my skin. My body quickened as a strong rush of pleasure consumed me. Then I felt it once more, that pinprick of sensation. He hovered there for a moment, waiting for my permission. Yes, I breathed into the thick softness of his hair, which smelled of the ocean. I clutched my hands around his arms as his teeth slowly sank deep into my neck. He let out a sudden, deep groan as he began to draw from me, and an instantaneous climax washed over my body. It pulled me under its intense grip and did not let go. Wave after wave of ecstasy fell upon me in a never-ending onslaught, and there was no shore. Every pull of his mouth triggered another explosion inside. It was too much, and I struggled for air, almost as if I had forgotten how to breathe. Stop! I gasped against him, and he released me. I lay there, my hands grasping the sheets, while I waited for the last orgasm to subside. My body throbbed and rippled with a piercing euphoria I'd never experienced before. As I gradually came back to myself, I could see him sitting there beside me, dark hair falling across his eyes, which seemed to shimmer a brighter shade of blue than before. What was that? My words spilled out in short, breathless pants. He smiled and bent down to press a soft kiss on my forehead. I tend to forget. The first time is always the most intense. Your body will adjust to me, though. I hesitantly reached for my neck to feel for whatever marks he had left, but there were none. Do not worry. You will find nothing there, Jezebel. But how? I shot him a questioning look. Regeneration. He reached over to take my hand, turning it over until he located a small slice on my thumb, one that I had cut with a pair of scissors the day before. Let me show you. He pressed his fingers lightly against the cut and then released, revealing smooth skin beneath. I let out a gasp. You're a healer? I am many things. But how is that possible? August gently stroked his thumb against my lips, stilling the words that yearned to tumble out in frantic succession. I know that this is a lot for you to take in right now, and you have many questions, but your body should rest right now. As if on cue, a sudden wave of drowsiness overcame me, and my eyelids grew heavy, longing to close. I nodded to him as the thick weight of sleep lured me into a deep oblivion, and August's voice became a faraway whisper in my ear. I will be back soon, Jezebel. I awoke to a blurry confusion. Disoriented, it took me a moment to remember where I was. The silky feel of sheets against my skin and the sound of footsteps coming up the stairs stirred me from my dreamlike state. August entered the room and sat next to me on the bed, brushing his hand across my back. How do you feel? I stretched my limbs, muscles humming deep within. Very relaxed. Good. He nodded as he placed an envelope beside me. What is this? Your payment? But I didn't clean. I looked up at him with confusion. No, you did not. But he provided me with a service, one in which I intend to compensate you for. Really? The sharp sting of insult rose within me. What if I don't want to take your money? I would prefer it if you did, Jezebel. I sat up in bed, pulling the sheets around me as a familiar feeling of self-consciousness crashed against me. So I'm just a whore to you then? Bitterness swirled on my tongue. August shook his head. No, it is not like that. There will be no intercourse between us. What you are is a giver. His eyes searched mine in the dim light of the room. I apologize if you find this offensive in any way, for that is not my intention. But it is important that we do not confuse things. I require a service from you, and if you agree to it, I will pay you adequately. Though August's tone was tender, his words fell on me like a slap. He had taken an extremely intimate, sensual experience and turned it into a business transaction. I felt deflated. Here I was thinking he had chosen me out of desire, not a mere necessity he had to fulfill. So you felt nothing with me? I feel many things with you, Jezebel. You are an incredibly beautiful woman with a very bright spark inside you. August reached over, taking my hand in his. It is a passion I have not seen in a very long time. I believe that is what draws me to you. You possess an innate ability to connect to energy on a deeper level. He looked at me with compassion and gentleness in his gaze, chipping away at my walls. August's capacity to see something deeper softened me. It was rare to meet anyone who could reach beyond the facade I presented to the world. Does that surprise you? He asked as his hand reached up to cup my face delicately. The person you think you are up here in your mind is just a tiny fragment of the potential hidden within you. My heart fluttered from his touch and the slow, sweet honey of his words, and I felt myself sinking headfirst into the depths of his eyes. He hovered above me for a moment, his lips tantalizingly close to mine, before abruptly drawing away. It is getting late. You should get dressed. I will meet you downstairs. Confliction swirled around me as I slipped my dress back on and retrieved my boots from beside the bed. I knew I should not subject myself to a transaction like this, but at the same time, his magnetism stirred something inside me, a freedom I wanted to feel more of. It was as if he were able to reach beyond the layers I had erected around myself, touching a place that was beautiful, alive, and filled with promise. I met him in the hallway, tentatively clutching the envelope in my hand. August regarded me with a look of somber intensity as he spoke. Think about what we have discussed. I understand that this is a great deal for you to process, but if you would like to continue with this arrangement, I will be waiting for you. Same time, next week. He moved to open the door for me, and a rush of cold air hit my face like a shock to my system. Suddenly, I was leaving his reality and re-entering my own. I will think about it, I said, glancing at him pensively as I tried to shake off the dreamlike state he has woven around me. August reached out and brushed his hand down my arm for a moment, his eyes filled with a softness. Thank you for sharing yourself with me tonight, Jezebel. I nodded, pulling the thin fabric of my coat around me, which did nothing to ward off the bite of the wind. or the decline of my emotions, which swirled wildly within me from the surreal and overwhelming events of the evening. Dazed, I stepped out into the darkness and headed toward the comforting familiarity of my car.